Let's see how badly I can screw up this first book tip review. Hey everyone, my name is Tavon Gatling. I enjoy a good fantasy novel, occasional sci-fi, and I dabble in some writing. If you want to check out some of my stuff, you can check out my blog. The link is in the description below. It has my Starforged campaign, solo, actual play fiction type of stuff. Maybe I'll talk about that another day. But today, we're talking about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. It's that one. I still have a pretty limited experience with the Cosmere. I was 2 books into Mistborn Era 1 and 2 books into the Stormlight Archive when the Kickstarter was announced. I won't really count the few Cosmere short stories that I've read, like Shadows for Silence and the Forests of Hell. But it was very clear to me at the time of the Kickstarter that Sanderson was going to be one of my favorite authors, and it's pretty hard for me to pick a favorite anything. But I jumped into it and I don't regret a thing. To be honest, I expected some just okay books. Like, they would be good, but not like books that I would be more than happy to be in my physical library when I started it, which I've now started. I was pleasantly surprised by the books that we got. Tress was amazing. I love the magic system, if you can call it that. It was so much creativity in the world, and I can't wait to eventually learn more about that world. I wonder how many books will have Sandy Seas going forward. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval... That's gonna be a tongue twister. The Frugal Wizard's... I'm just gonna read this. I've messed up on this name like 5 times already. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval... That book was good, but it was definitely overshadowed by Tress. I love the entire concept of it though. I don't know if I would actually purchase my own little like sub-dimension. There's too many sci-fi movies and novels about that kind of thing not going the way that we want it to. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter though, not what I expected. Mind you, I avoided all the spoilers for the Year of Sanderson. I missed out on all the YouTube videos and behind the scenes things. I didn't even look at the titles before I got the books. When I opened up that zip file was the first time I saw any of the titles. Also, this book makes the February box make a lot more sense to me. Alright, I'm gonna do my best to avoid any major spoilers, but there are some things that are a bit unavoidable, like our narrator. It's very clear early on that we have a sort of omniscient narrator, and they speak with a familiar cadence. Spoilers, it's Hoyt. You'll never guess where he is in this story. Never. I dare you. Try and guess where and how he shows up. I recognize some of the places that Hoyt mentions, such as Roshar and Scadrial. And because of Tress, I recognize a few of the capital words, most of which make me think they relate directly to Elantris. Hoyt as a narrator makes me ravenous to read more Cosmere books. I managed to finish Mistborn Era 1 and the Alloy of Law, but now I just want to consume everything. Okay, back to Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Alright, so we first meet Nikaro, who goes by Painter, which is his profession. Everyone except his co-workers and his friends call him Painter. He's a loner who lives in a completely pitch black world whose only light really comes from these twin lines of light in the sky called the Hyon lines. His job is to paint nightmares. When a nightmare escapes from this undulating darkness that surrounds his and pretty much every other city in his world, it's the job of a painter to paint them. Doing so changes their shadowy form into the painting and they kind of dissipate. We learn pretty early on that his loner ways are mostly self-imposed. And despite his profession, he just seems to be kind of like lazy or just getting by. But he does his job well enough. He even tracks down a dangerous nightmare in his off hours. Our other MC is Yumi, who is a Yokihijo. A Yokihijo is a special person chosen at birth to serve the spirits. She is reminded regularly that she should consider herself lucky to be considered a Yokihijo, to be chosen. But it's clear that it's not all it's cracked up to be. Yumi doesn't really live for herself. She only lives to serve the spirits and everyone in her community. She doesn't feed herself, she doesn't bathe herself, or do much of anything for herself. She is a servant, but on a pedestal, if that makes sense. She just can't be bothered by the simple ways of life. More not really her choice, but whatever. She's also an expert at stacking rocks. Yes, rocks. That's how she summons the spirits. In doing so, she can ask them to turn into various things. That's how the people in this world get a lot of the things that they need to survive. The spirits can turn into a ton of things, like things to make houses float and keep up off the ground. Yumi's and Painter's worlds are completely different. It's like night and day. Painter's world is kind of like techie. Everything is powered by the Hyon. You put 2 points together and you get an intense heat, but also I think like electricity of some sort, but it's drowning in darkness all over. Despite living in this perpetual darkness, Sanderson's descriptions paint an almost neon noir vibe to the city. Yumi's world is old, like historical old, and it's bathed. Bathed is probably not the right word. It is also drowned, but in sunlight. You cook food by putting it outside on the ground. The sun shines so brightly, the ground is just massively hot. The people walk around in wooden clogs when they go outside. Plants float in the air. The houses do too. And everyone lives near super hot geysers because it doesn't really rain that often either, so everything has to come from the geyser. The imagery in this book was so good. I don't think Sanderson has the best prose, but that's never anything I've needed from him. It makes his stories so much easier to consume and digest when I'm not trying to parse all this flowery language just to understand it. He describes it and he moves on. This story was flowery in places, in all the best ways. I could clearly envision their two worlds and how they interacted with them. All right, no spoilers, but Yumi annoyed me through like the first half of the story. She's written this way on purpose. I had very choice words for her on a few occasions. Luckily, she grows throughout the story and I come to understand her and those around her a lot. Painter, on the other hand, I rooted for most of the story. His backstory felt super relatable and hated that for him. There is a very topical conversation that takes place within this story, but talking about said topic spoils the story. So I'll dance around it as best as I possibly can. I'm surprised Sanderson wrote this in the early days of the pandemic when this particular topic wasn't really talked about. Intentional or not, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter hit it like... I like how Yumi and Painter look at an aspect of this topic completely differently, yet also the same, and still know that this topic is a threat to them. Hell, it's so much of a threat that it's actually the big bad of the entire story. I should do a spoilered review because I have a few more feelings about this topic. Okay, so there is a seemingly pointless section in this story that I kind of liked because it helped me like Yumi a little bit more. There's something that she grows to enjoy throughout the story, and it was clear when it was introduced that this can't just be for pure character development. There's something here, but we'll put a pin in it and we'll come back to it later. Readers, we 100% came back to it later, and it was a gut punch. I damn near cried. I had to read over the big reveal a few times to fully catch on to what was going on because it came out of left field. I had suspected a few things, but typical of Sanderson, even though the twist, you know it's coming, you have no idea exactly how it's going to do it. Luckily, Hoyd steps in and gives us the exposition that typically you wouldn't find in any other story, but with Hoyd, he's like, okay, that was probably confusing. Let me break it down for you bit by bit. A+. Overall, I cannot wait to reread Yumi and Nightmare Painter. I read it when it first got released, but now that I've got this beautiful thing right here, like, I know that the artwork is going to just look so much better in this. If you haven't already, definitely pick up Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. It is well worth the read and is fighting for #1 spot in my favorite Cosmere stuff. Mistborn Era 1, amazing. This is fighting, and it's putting up a fight up against like 3 books. All right, I'll be back at some other point for some other review of something else that I've read, but I don't know when. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and do all those other things, because it will give me fuel to do something else. All right.